you're setting up your base camp and you've only got a knife, where do you start? Well, that's a good question. So long as you've got some sort of sheet over your head or whatever, you've got some tent, I don't know. But you want to elaborate, you want to build a bit more of a camp. Well, here's some tools that you can make. I have seen quite a lot of people not using these tools when they could have in situations. But the first of all is the wedge. You can easily make that with a knife, and most wood will do the job, preferably hard. This is a piece of ash. It's untested yet. I know ash takes good impact, but the grain structure might let it down a bit. So we'll test ash out as a wedge in future. This is a piece of ironwood, short stubby wedge. I like to make them visible by taking the bark off. You know, it's unlikely you'll chuck this on the fire, although stranger things have happened in the woods. And yeah, that's a larger wedge, and you'd start off with your thinner wedge like this one, which is also actually a toggle, which is another handy little thing that you can make with just a knife and a piece of wood to tie up your equipment and tie up your lines, tie up lots of things with a little toggle. But we're on wedges at the moment, and I find just a few wedges, different sizes. Like that's my little set at the moment, and that's good enough. I can split planks out of ash, even out of oak, with a little set of wedges like this. You can always make more, obviously, if you need to tap it down the line of the trunk. But often overlooked, perhaps an unsung hero of the bushcraft world, but easily done with a knife, a few minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, not a problem. Then we move on to spikes, I guess, but the idea of these spikes is to make holes in the ground for uprights. You have various sizes, same with the wedges, and again easily made with a knife and very little time or effort, but incredibly useful. You'll often see people trying to bang a pole in like this. Why? You could just, you know, you're going to do your shoulder. My shoulder hurts just doing it, holding and trying to put pressure down from a height. So you make your hole first with this, you wiggle it lots, bang it in a bit more, wiggle it lots. Then when you've got the depth you like, that you can easily take out of the ground, then you can move on to the thicker wedge, which is more of a post size, and you can really just hammer that into the ground with the pre-made hole from that one, and that's surprisingly easy to do. The other bonus for doing this is that you're compacting the earth as you're hitting it in, so it's going to actually really grab hold of this piece of wood, whereas if you was to dig a hole and then put the post in, you're backfilling, okay, you stamp it down, don't you, but it's never going to be as good as driving this into the ground and compressing all that soil around it. You can prolong the life of these things, or fence posts, by using a bit of shrink wrap around the bottom that's in the ground, and that'll stop the rot a little bit, but that's going off subject. Also, with the wedges, I have a little peg in case the wedge gets stuck, which it often does, and that will easily just sit on top give it a little bit more length, and then hammer it through. So there's two, well I suppose if you include the toggle, there's three things that you can easily do. I have shown on a previous episode the power of the toggle, and it's a very good piece of kit to have, a toggle. And also then you can go on to making and shaping nice bits of wood that you find wouldn't ordinarily be able to get to without the wedges, because it's heart of the oak basically. Take a lot of work with you could use an axe, but yeah, to get at it, if you're talking a tree this big, which this came from, a branch from an oak that fell, deadfall, I was able to knock these wedges in and get a good quality piece of this hardwood here like this. So that's the next thing you can make, is just a little mallet. There's multiple ways you could do that, obviously. You could just something like that, you know, just whack anything. So that's what we're going to do. That's just a little series I'll do of making tools, to make tools to set up camps and make life easier, I think. So the idea is, it's a bit like Minecraft or one of those games where you build up your tools, increasing the actual amount of things that you can then make with the stuff you've made. So that's the very beginning. Multiple uses for those things obviously as well, but that's a good starting point for starting off your camp. I'll pour my coffee and we'll go on to the next step of basic tools to get your camp going. And that is with the spikes or hole makers. You can see that I used this just now, and I battered the hell out of it really, and used it for a couple of other little bits, and it's still almost needle like. Reason being is that it's been treated, and the way you treat it is you heat it up for about a minute without it burning. You definitely don't want to see black, or not charcoal black anyway, you know, it will come out dark sort of, but yeah, what you're after is just to heat it up gently, not as much as that flame has got. Got to watch the tip don't burn. Obviously being the weakest link, being the thinnest. So we'll say that's about a minute. The next job is to get your magic stone, which if you haven't got a magic stone, that's totally understandable. Not everyone can wield a magic stone. But any old stone really, but flint, flat, and then you burnish. I don't know whether burnish comes from burning and then ishing it, but it's a good way of remembering it if nothing else. So you burn it and then you ish it, which you've got to make sure you say right. And that will compress all those fibres into a very hard, denser piece of wood that will then last longer and maintain its point a lot longer. I would say 4 times longer, to be honest. That's a total stab in the dark. So, but the more you rub it, the more dense it gets, and once it starts to cool down, then you can stop rubbing it. I mean, you can rub it all day long if you like, it ain't going to do no harm. I'm just get a little bit stronger and stronger. Another way is to have the stone on the floor and do that, where you can add a bit more pressure on that point and stuff. And there you go, that's ready to go for a good few holes again. As you can see, it's shiny because of the burnishing, and it's also very hard because of the burning. So you can do exactly the same with the wedges. Not 100% if it makes the wedges last longer or not. I don't see why not. But yeah, obviously this can be done with spears or arrows or any pointy objects that you keep hammering into something. It's a good way of keeping that point. Well, who'd have thought?